The letter T in SHIFT stands for teamwork and leadership. And today we have Theo Block, who is the director of projects. And so we want to talk about his career progression, but also how teamwork and leadership has shifted and changed over his time at Q-Line. He's going to bring a lot of great insights into kind of the evolution of the company, but also what it means today to be a leader at Q-Line and what he hopes it will look like in the future. So buckle up. Theo Block's next. Theo Block, thanks for being on the podcast.
Thanks.
I really appreciate you coming.
Yep. Oh, happy to be here.
You look happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is happy, believe it or not.
I love it. No, well, I think let's start with your story because I think it is a very cool story. You've been at Q-Line how many years now?
15 years.
And you didn't start as the director of projects.
No.
Yeah. What's the story?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, 15 years working for Q-Line. I had a few years in between that I was doing some schooling, but pretty much out of high school. I grew up in Waltheim, down the road from Russ Queering, and so kind of knew the family.
Yeah.
Decided I wanted to get into trucking. I was thinking at the time I wanted to be a heavy-duty mechanic.
Okay.
Out of high school, and Ron hired me in the shop, and I started greasing trailers and fixing lights on trailers and doing tire changes and oil changes. And
like how old would you have been?
18. Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. Yeah. So did that. And kind of the story of my career really, both in trucking and with Q-Line, has just been stepping into the next opportunity. So, I was in the shop working, and the driver that shunted the trailers in and out of the shop broke his leg, and they needed somebody to pull the trailers in and out of the shop. And so I just jumped in the truck and started doing it. I didn't have my license.
Wow.
But it was all inside the yard and it was safe. I promise you it was safe. But moved into doing that and decided I wanted to get my truck license.
Sure.
So the Queerings helped me get my license. And then I started driving for Q-Line locally, hauling loads out of CNH, delivering farm equipment to farms locally across Saskatchewan. Did that for quite a few years. Worked my way into a project supervisor role. Q-Line was a part of the Agrium Potash Mine Expansion Project.
Okay.
So that was a really cool experience. Got to go out and work on site on the potash mine for about a year doing that.
Cool.
Yeah. From there, an opportunity came to work in our heavy haul division in the office as a dispatcher and sales rep. Did that for a couple of years. And at the time we were, quite a lot smaller than we are today. Yep. And so every role wore multiple hats. And so in that role, I was dispatching heavy haul trucks, planning, routing, ordering permits.
Oh my goodness.
That was a really good job because I really got a lot of experience in that position and really gained a lot of understanding of what goes into actually getting the load before it's even on the trailer. Did that for a few years, and then Q-Line was really growing at that time and expanding into areas like Alberta and British Columbia. And we'd opened a terminal out in Abbotsford.
Right.
And I saw the opportunity. They were looking for someone to go out and manage that terminal and the drivers that we were hiring there. And so transferred out to Abbotsford.
My Lord. Did
that for a couple of years. Took a few years off to do some schooling.
Yeah.
And then came back to Q-Line in 2020. Moved back to Saskatoon and took a job as a sales representative.
Yeah.
Did that for a couple of years and really enjoyed. I think I discovered in that role a lot of my strengths in the industry was in the customer relationship side. And did that and saw an opportunity. We had somewhat of an informal projects focus, but we didn't really have a dedicated team or a lot of strategy around what we wanted to do in that space. But I recognized that Q-Line really was built. We have the infrastructure, we have the expertise, and we have the knowledge to to enter into project specific freight. And so I worked with another team member just to start exploring and looking at opportunities in projects.
Yeah.
And really over the last 3 years, we've built it from really nothing to a team of 10 people. And we're building a name in the industry in Western Canada in projects. And that's kind of led me to my role today, director of our projects division. And
that's great.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride.
That is a wild ride. And I think, our topic today is teamwork and leadership. And I think, my question to you would be, you don't get to where you are by yourself. And, I think you've watched variations of teamwork, collaboration happen over the years. Talk to me a little bit about that. Like, when in your career have you seen what the power of teamwork can do for kind of the advancement of Q-Line?
Right. Yeah, for sure. I think, having worked in so many different roles in the company, I think one of the greatest things I've learned is there are so many pieces that are in play to actually move a load down the road. You have to have equipment that's maintained
right
and functional in its operation. There's salespeople who are actually out there getting the loads, finding the freight, dispatchers, planners. There's so many parts that make up actually moving a load from point A to point B. And you can't do it on your own. It's not possible. And certainly the way Q-Line approaches the work that we do and the complexity of the freight we move, it's critical that you have strong teamwork. Every part matters, and every part you have to have people that have an understanding of their role to play in it. So teamwork's critical. It's necessary to moving freight. And I think if I look at projects and the work we do, there's so much subject matter expertise. You can't rely on one individual to hold it all.
Right.
And so it's really important that people come together and, set your egos aside and rely on one another, rely on the heavy haul specialist who understands the equipment, who understands the jurisdictions, the restrictions, the requirements, and lean into that person's subject matter expertise. Just like you have to lean into a permit coordinator and understanding, their subject matter expertise. So teamwork is so important, and you have to come to the table and you have to be willing to lean into other people's strengths to pull it all together.
Can you give us an example of a time where you saw that happen? So for project specific, let's say, where teamwork actually changed the outcome of maybe, something that was happening in your department.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it happens every single day in our world, but an example, we had a project a couple of years ago where we were moving some ODHH, which over dimensional heavy haul pieces from Alberta out to Ontario.
I'm so glad you said the acronym, like what it was, because I was lost.
Yeah. Okay.
ODHH.
There's lots of terminology, lots
RGN,
of acronyms, and I probably know,
know them all.
The basics, but yeah, we had some really complex freight to move, and in an area in Canada where we don't have a terminal there, we move freight all over North America, but I wouldn't say Southern Ontario is our,
bread and butter.
Yeah, it's not our main lane, right? So there was lots that we had to learn and discover in moving that freight, and it was for a real important key account on a pretty significant project happening. And it wasn't only a matter of Q-Line team that had to come together and work together to pull off the shipments. We had to work with the permitting office in Ontario. We had to work with the utility companies in Ontario. These were high loads. And so there's lots of risks involved, safety risks, commercial risks. And so getting everybody in the room, having the conversations, putting a plan together was so important to pulling off these shipments. And they didn't happen without challenges, without running into roadblocks along the way. But I think what was really cool about that particular project was how everybody on the team understood their role and executed, right? And we had strong project coordinators who kept everybody on schedule to make sure that we could deliver the load safely. And it was, I think that was a really, really cool experience for us to go through. And it was,
When it comes to leadership, like, okay, so greasing trailers, you're a senior leader in the company now. Talk to me a little bit about who has influenced you in terms of the way that you think about leadership, the way you think about leading teams. Who's inspired you?
Yeah, good question. I've always valued leadership, and I've always thought of myself as a leader, and I've always really tried to develop myself as a leader. So I've drawn from lots of different people. I would think, without question, Reg has been a really influential leader, and I'm certainly not trying to suck up in this moment whatsoever, but I do think his focus on people and on developing people and giving people opportunities and prioritizing that side of the business has been a major influence for me. It's not just bottom dollar with Reg. He cares about the people in this company, and he cares about people succeeding. And so I would say he's been a big influence, which has been great to work in a company that you can look up to leadership and see a great example and a great model that you want to follow. I would say my dad as well. And it's been really great having him at Q-Line these last couple of years and working with him. He again is a strong people person, a great networker. And he takes great pride and great care in the work that he does. And 100%. He's always challenged me to look for opportunities to build into people. The principle that I live by is I want the work that I do and the job that I do to be a platform for others to step on and take it further. And so when I look at the people on my team, I have a very young team, very smart team, but relatively inexperienced team. Most of the people that are working in our projects division have only been in it for the 2-3 years max. And so they're learning every single day. But what I get inspired by showing up every day is the opportunity to impart whatever I've learned in my 15 years in this industry and set people up to succeed and take this further. So I'm always looking at the team and looking for opportunities and seeing who's stepping into leadership and who's demonstrating capacity to take on new challenges. So I would say those two for sure. And then, a plethora of podcasts and people out there that are teaching on leadership principles.
I think when we talk about leadership, can you distinguish for us the difference between just leadership and management? And I think sometimes there is this space, especially in a lot of corporate settings, where people aspire to be managers. They want to manage people, but leadership is a distinctly different thing. Like you can have leadership pieces in management, but I think at Q-Line we're trying to really create a culture where everybody's a leader. So you want to flesh that out a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, that's a really good point. I think leadership again, and I'll go back to what I was saying. I think leadership is really about people. It's really about having a mindset about the individual and understanding how to impart into that individual so that they can succeed and grow. And management on the flip side for me is really about the task. It's really about making sure that the job gets done. It's very task driven. It's very what needs to happen today. You need both to be successful. One's not greater than the other. But I do think that's how I would define the difference, at least how I look at it. And I think, you can be a good manager without being a good leader, but I don't think you can be a good leader without also being a good manager. And understanding those two distinctions and how to prioritize them is really important.
One thing about leadership that I think has been really, expressed over the last several years is around, because we've talked about successes, right? Like we say, to be successful, you need X. But there's this thing that's been going on around transparency and authenticity, and sometimes like learning from failures. Talk to me a little bit about how you like. What kind of culture do you see us building at Q-Line where we can make space for people to actually learn from their mistakes and grow as leaders that way too? Because I think, sometimes everything's done with perfection. Yeah. I think excellence and perfection are two different things. Yeah. And we want to create this culture of excellence, but at the same time, space for people to be able to fail. And what does that look like in your team? What do you hope that looks like at Q-Line in general?
Yeah. Great thought. I have failed so many times in my job, in the roles that I've had. I could probably go through every role that I've had and come up with a handful of scenarios where I've failed, everything from small to epic. And I think that is something that I would say I'm quite thankful for at Q-Line, has been the opportunity to fail and learn from those mistakes. And that leadership continues to believe in me to do the job, knowing that, failure is going to happen. Right. The nature of our industry is very reactionary, and it's very time sensitive. And so you have to make really quick decisions. Really critical decisions, and you're not always going to get it right. You're going to make mistakes. And so, I'm not going to go through and give you a whole bunch of examples of 100%. How I failed, but I think it's really important that we, like you said, create that space for people to fail, because it's how you learn. It's a great teacher. It can be a great teacher if you have the right attitude and the right response to when you fail. I know there's been lots of times, even within my own team, where mistakes have been made, whether it's from anywhere in the quoting stage through to the execution stage. And to me, it's really important that we learn from those mistakes. We understand the implications. We understand the consequence of the mistake, because there's a weight to making mistakes. 100%. But continuing to believe in people and continuing to give people an opportunity to demonstrate growth is something that I care about. And I know that that's a strong culture piece at Q-Line because I've experienced it.
Yeah. Love it. When it comes to, I think, teamwork again, let's go back to teamwork. What I've observed in my time is that there's a crew of leaders, right? Like there's a whole level of directors that you guys have come up in the ranks, really, which is really great to see. And there's a lot of collaboration between that level. But we also see a ton of collaboration inside of the company too, in various spaces. Is there a story you can think of that's either recent or that has happened where we actually delivered on something and it was like a cross collaborative, all hands on deck, everybody was there kind of story, just so that we can show how this idea of teamwork actually functions at Q-Line?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think to speak to, the directors in the company, we've worked together for many years. And like you said, we've kind of come up from various individual contributor level positions into the roles that we have now. And probably a more recent example that I would bring is sort of our own initiative to gather every week. And there's so much change happening. We're growing very quickly, and each division can become siloed. Right. If we're not intentional about being collaborative at our level. And so it maybe isn't a specific project or load of shipments where collaboration happened. But I think at our level, establishing weekly meetings where we come together and we talk about what's going on in our divisions. We talk about the people, where the opportunities are, and we share what the challenges are, and where the gaps are. And it's been really cool because in that space, there's been such great collaboration of ideas, both in terms of solving today's problems, but also thinking about where we want to go collectively as a company, the culture we want to set, the things we want to prioritize, and how we want to tackle the challenges we're facing today. Things that are within our control and things that are outside of our control. And so that to me has been a really cool piece of collaboration at our level that I'm quite proud of, because our group sort of took that initiative upon ourselves to make that happen. And you're a part of those meetings. And so it's been really good.
Talk to us a little bit about customers. When I think about project customers, they're a whole different kind of client profile than maybe just somebody who's trying to move something from X to Y, right? Like somebody in the agriculture sector or something else. So when you're trying to talk to a new customer, let's say, around projects and what does that look like, why should a customer actually trust Q-Line with their freight? And really, if you can take it from the teamwork and leadership space kind of theme, that'd be really good. Because I think as a customer, I want to have confidence in these people are not going to go crazy at each other internally and kind of screw up our freight. Mm-hmm. So what does that look like for a new customer coming on? What can they expect from us?
Right. Yeah, I think in the project space, knowledge is king. And so there's the uniqueness of project freight is it's made to order. If something goes wrong with that shipment, they can't just pull another one off the shelf. Mm-hmm. Everything is made to order one time with very specific scheduling to keep on track and on budget with that project. A lot of shipments need to go direct to site for install. So you have to have experience, you have to have knowledge, you have to have the expertise, and you have to demonstrate that you do in projects. That will, in many ways will trump price. Not always, but in most cases, if you can demonstrate that you have the expertise and the confidence to execute at a very high level and mitigate risk, and you can show your experience in doing that, that gives you an advantage in the project industry. And so when we are approaching new customers, whether it's an engineering firm or a construction contractor, that's what they're looking for. From a technical side, what we're finding is they're also looking for value alignment, which is really important. A lot of these construction projects, there's environmental impact, there's local impact. And so it's really important that Q-Line demonstrates that we share in those values. We can't just be the best project transportation company in terms of executing the freight. We have to demonstrate that we share in the values and we have a long-term sustainable outlook. And so that's the way that we approach it from a new customer. Q-Line, I would think, is one of a few companies in Western Canada and in deck transportation that could say we actually have a dedicated projects division, right? That we have project managers and project leads and project coordinators. I think that's a niche in trucking, and so it gives us an advantage. And when we can demonstrate that we have dedicated teams with subject matter experts, that gives us a real edge with those customers.
You started the project division really out of an innovation, I would say. Like you saw a need in the market, you saw something that was going to really kind of take Q-Line to next steps. What does that look like inside of our company in terms of innovation? Like what would you say to folks at Q-Line who might have an idea or see something in the market that no one else is looking at or we're not doing today? Do you have any encouragements for our staff around, how is that leadership? What does that look like to actually take the jump and suggest something like, hey, I see, that we don't have a dedicated team for projects. I would like to move that down that road. I'm sure there are folks that have those ideas, but how would you counsel them or encourage them to actually bring those out to their managers and leaders?
Sure. I would speak from my own experience, which there's a certain degree where you just have to take initiative and you have to push into those spaces. When I was a sales rep, I had a book of key accounts that occupied full time my job and my focus, but I knew that there was an opportunity in the project space. And so I had to get really serious about carving out space to take that initiative to pursue opportunities in projects. I think for anybody in our company that sees an opportunity or an area that they want to innovate in, you gotta create the space to do it. And then you have to find people that are willing to go into that space with you, somewhat, in their own time to do it. And that was my approach. I saw an opportunity and I found other people that were interested in pushing the envelope on what we could do. And, it takes time, and we built it one opportunity after the next one to the point that we could demonstrate the validity of doing it. I don't know if that really answers the question so much. I think being innovative requires creativity, and sometimes it's a unique approach to it, but I think you're stronger if you can find people that you can gather, that you can share the vision of what you want to do, and that you can demonstrate, a business case or validity to it. Demonstrate that there is an opportunity here, and that there's long-term projected growth to it. It's not something that's here and gone tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, I love that. I think ultimately what you're saying to people is take the risk.
Take the risk.
Like actually talk to somebody about it and go for it and see if you can actually make a viable case out of it. So, I think it is true of all of us that we want to make space for that stuff, because it's too easy to say, well, this is how we've always done it.
Right. And I think too, where I like that Q-Line has gone in the last few years, because when I was a sales rep and looking at projects, we didn't have people in the organization like yourself. Sure. We didn't have, people like Hillary and employee experience that are there to help our team develop and grow, both in their careers and in their aspirations. So I think now we as a company are recognizing those opportunities, and we have people now to support that. So that would probably be a real practical piece of advice for anyone listening at Q-Line. If you have an idea, we have people now to bring your ideas to. Hey, here's an idea. What do you think of this? How do I flesh it out? How do I demonstrate that there's an opportunity here? And then how do I push into that space?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Go talk to Hillary, basically, is what you're saying.
Talk to Hillary. That's what I do.
I love it.
With 90% of my problems. I take them to Hillary.
Yeah. And then she tells me I'm wearing an ugly sweater. So it's fine.
Yeah.
She's real.
Yeah.
She's real.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. When you think about Q-Line and its future, what kind of leadership stories do you hope the next generation gets to tell about where we are today to where we're headed in the future?
Yeah. I hope we continue to tell the story that Q-Line has been, which is we are an innovative company. We're a solutions-based company. We've never sat inside of a box. I always joked that Q-Line stood for Plan Q, that Plan A didn't always work, Plan B didn't always work, but we would continue to work on a problem until we found a solution. And I hope that continues to be our story. But I also hope that, the future story of Q-Line is that we didn't just keep up in the industry. We didn't just keep pace, but that we were actually trailblazers in the industry. I think Q-Line is well positioned to be the standard and the model. I'll speak selfishly to the work that I do, but in project transportation, we have the infrastructure. We have great people, great subject matter experts. And I think we're backed really strongly to take risks, take opportunities. And I hope we're always pushing the envelope in terms of what we can do. I love our name, Q-Line Trucking, and there's great legacy behind it. But we are so much more than a trucking company today. And I think, as leadership, we're always looking for ways to get that message out that we offer so much more than trucking. we're pushing into storage and warehousing. We've pushed into installations, which is a great success story on the egg side of our business. And so I think we already have a really good story, and I hope we continue that and we expand on it.
Theo Block, thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure.
No problem.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.